Probably already heard about some of these big benefits of Zone 2 training, how it can optimize cardiovascular health and longevity, improve energy efficiency throughout the body, and help improve aerobic performance. But in order to get these big benefits, it's essential that we understand exactly what Zone 2 training really is. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you a breakdown of what Zone 2 training is, how you can do it and measure it, and ways in which you can incorporate it into your routine. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Zone 2 training is and how you can use it as a part of your routine. So first up, we need to define exactly what Zone 2 cardio is. And we do this through the 5-zone model of heart rates. Zone 2 refers to a heart rate between 60 and 70% of our maximum. So Zone 2 training is simply training within that window of 60 to 70% of our maximum heart rate. Now, in order to know what this is, we need to know what our maximum heart rate is. And there's a couple of ways we can do this that are fairly straightforward that I'm going to break down below. First up is a bit of an estimation. It's a little bit rough and ready, does lack accuracy, but it gives a good idea of what that may be. And that's simply subtract your age from the number 220. So for me, I'm 36. I subtract that from 220 and it gives me an estimated maximum heart rate of 184, which I can tell you actually from tests that I've done isn't too far off the mark. However, it does involve an estimation and it isn't as accurate as it can be. To be more accurate, you do need a heart rate monitor. And the next step I'm going to describe is known as the Bruce test. So you need a heart rate monitor for this, and it involves working on a treadmill, increasing the incline and the speed every 3 minutes up until you hit the point of physical failure. You cannot do any more. So every 3 minutes you increase the incline and increase the speed on the treadmill. Keep working at greater intensities up till you hit that failure point. This should give you a greater indication of what your heart rate is. Maximum, that is. Now, if your treadmill can't do an incline, don't worry. It's all about just increasing the intensity as you work towards hitting that failure point. So you can simply increase the speed. And this will give you a better estimate of what your true heart rate maximum is. So now you know what your maximum heart rate is. The next question is how to train in Zone 2. And it's quite a simple calculation really, because you take your maximum heart rate and you multiply it by 0.6 to get the lower end of Zone 2 and 0.7 to get the upper end of Zone 2. So for me, with an estimated heart rate maximum of 184, I times that by 0.6, which gives me 110 beats per minute, and I multiply it by 0.7, which gives me 129 beats per minute. So for me to train in Zone 2, I know I need to keep my heart rate within that window. So now that you know your Zone 2 heart rate figures, there are a few more considerations to make sure you can effectively train in Zone 2. And a big one comes down to choosing the exercise that enables you to stay within that window. Now, for some of you, you might find it difficult to jog slow enough to actually keep your heart rate within that window. You might find that as you start jogging, your heart rate steadily increases up beyond the upper limit of Zone 2. And this is where you could use the walk-jog method. This includes set times of walking and jogging in your training. So you start jogging, you see your heart rate start to increase, and as it hits the upper limit of your Zone 2 threshold, you go back into walking, enabling the heart rate to fall down slightly. And when it hits the bottom limit, then you start jogging again. So you'll see periodic cycling of your heart rate, but still keeping within that window of Zone 2. And don't worry if it goes slightly above or slightly below those thresholds. As long as you're training in that window, that's the most important thing. And remember, you don't have to do jogging to enjoy the benefits of Zone 2 cardio. You can choose any kind of steady state cardio that enables you to stay within that zone for a sustained period of time. Things like cycling, swimming, hiking, even shadow boxing all can work. As long as you can keep your heart rate within that limit, That's where you'll get those real aerobic benefits. For me, I like walking on an incline whilst wearing a weighted vest, as that enables me to easily keep to that steady state and hold it there for as long as I need to. Now, to get the optimum benefits from Zone 2 training, you want to get a minimum training time of 2 sessions a week at 45 minutes each. And whilst you're training, you might start to wonder, is it really effective training at this lower intensity? Shouldn't I be training a bit harder? Well, the answer is yes, it is very effective, and it all comes down to increasing the efficiency of our cells to produce the energy that we need for that exercise. And this is because in Zone 2 training, we're working at a level that stimulates our mitochondrial function to the maximum capacity in the OXPHOS system, meaning we can supply our body with the ATP, with the energy it needs, predominantly from mitochondrial fat and oxygen, meaning they're working at peak performance. And when we're getting them to work at peak performance, they adapt, meaning their function improves over time. And this ability of Zone 2 training to increase our mitochondrial function is really the key to its overall benefits on performance. As the better our mitochondria function, the more capacity we have for training at higher intensities too, and sustained periods of aerobic training. On an additional note, optimizing our mitochondrial function is absolutely key for optimizing our overall health and longevity, as these tiny organelles play such a key role in all functions of our biology. And there are some really specific benefits that we can get from Zone 2 training too. As we mentioned, there's an increase in our aerobic capacity, improving our body's ability to utilize oxygen efficiently to produce energy that we need for exercise. This then means we can sustain aerobic performance for longer periods of time, which boosts our overall fitness and performance too. And number 2 is fat burning. Now, because Zone 2 training relies predominantly on fat oxidation in the mitochondria to produce the energy, doing Zone 2 training can mean that we start to use some of our excess stored fat for the energy that we need during training. And number 3 is enhanced recovery. Zone 2 training is lower intensity, but it still stimulates blood flow to the muscles, enabling them to get rid of any metabolic waste that's built up. Including lower intensity Zone 2 training between higher intensity sessions can give us greater ability to help recover between sessions and reduce DOMS, that delayed onset muscle soreness. The 4th benefit is an improvement in our cardiovascular health, because Zone 2 training really helps stimulate the heart muscles, it improves our circulation and decreases blood pressure too. And lastly on the list here, though there's undoubtedly many more benefits too, is improved endurance. Because during that Zone 2 training we're increasing our aerobic functional capacity, it gives us the ability to train for longer and harder in different forms of physical activity, because we have the ability to produce the energy that we need to sustain performance and reduce fatigue for longer periods of time. And you'd be really surprised at the benefits this gives. To give you an example, me and my training partner Ged, we did a VO2 max test about a month ago, and we trained together on 3 times each week, where we do a mixed circuit and a little bit of body weight routine. But the other 2 days, he does some intense longer distance running, where his heart rate is 160 or more, whilst I do steady state Zone 2 training, just on a treadmill, walking, like I mentioned earlier. And we did the test, and you'd think that he has a much better capacity for pushing those top levels than I do. But our end results were exactly the same. And the reason this was because my aerobic capacity was far greater than his. So I could push for much longer in that window of training, whilst I had a reduced period of time at the end because I don't train as intensely as he did. It gave me the ability to compete on the same level despite my training at a significantly lower intensity than he does. So I hope this gives you a good solid understanding of what Zone 2 cardio is. You should know how you can measure it and how you can add it into your training. If you found this video useful, please give us a thumbs up and a like below. We release daily videos on health and longevity optimization.